Hello everybody, I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and we got some sad news coming out of Vision of Mana, despite the fact the game just came out. In an effervescent reminder that this industry does not care about the talented people that make these games, to quote the Takashi Mochizuki article from Bloomberg in the description down below, NetEase has cut all but a handful of jobs at its Oka studio, the people that make Vision of Mana, in Tokyo. According to people familiar with the matter, it intends to shut the Shibuya outfit, which had opened with much fanfare in 2020 and gone on to hire veterans from big names such as Capcom and Bandai Namco. The few that remain will oversee the rollout of its final games before the studio winds down. In essence, in an attempt to focus more so on big hits overall, both Tencent and NetEase are scaling back investments in Japanese studios, again according to the article. And yeah, it is business being business, but at the end of the day, it doesn't exude much confidence in Visions of Mana, and I played the demo to this game and it was really good. I really enjoyed the game, at least from what I played, and with the reviews coming out, it seems like a really solid game. But while I can't speak too much on Visions of Mana specifically, I think there's also a larger conversation that can happen as a result of this, and that is the video games industry continually shifting in the direction of hunting down big hits instead of having a swath of consistently good games. We have seen this not just from Tencent and NetEase, but from the industry on the whole. Rather famous examples of this are both PlayStation, but also Rockstar. Rockstar used to churn out a bunch of great games. I loved games like LA Noire that he released back in the day, and there's a lot of people out there that love games like Bully. But over the last 15 or so years, they have largely just became the Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto studios, and instead of churning out games on a consistent, frequent basis, they pump out games once in a blue moon, but they're these giant megalithic projects. PlayStation used to be known for having a bunch of variety in its games, and I think we're starting to see a little bit of a resurgence in that category specifically, with things like Astrobot. For the longest time, we largely just got these big 3D cinematic action adventure games, like God of War, etc. There was always a little bit of variety, but PlayStation definitely shifted its overall goal to focus on those kinds of games. They aren't by any means the only people doing this, those are just examples of a symptom of a larger problem, and that is, with the video games industry continually growing in popularity, and as we see the market shrinking and growing periodically, you have a lot of people coming into the industry, and from a lot of decisions that are made, feel as if they're only looking at the sales figures, they're only looking at revenue, they're only looking at profit, because it's a business, duh. However, personally, I am unsure of the stability of this approach, because I think in pursuit of higher revenue and bigger profit margins, a lot of these companies are ignoring the simple realities that become exceedingly clear to anyone who actually plays video games. We saw company after company focus and double down on live service games to the point where the entire scene has become so bloated that it's really hard to get a new live service game to come up and online, simply because people already have so much investment in previous games, and if you're not only doing what those games did but far better, and you're also doing something new on top of that, you're not likely to break through. So we see live service after live service game fall apart because in pursuit of this trend, you ignore the realities of the gaming industry. Games take a long time to make, and trends, especially in a more online age than ever before, increasingly come and go. We saw Platinum learn this lesson the hard way with Babylon Falls, or Babylon's Fall. It's like one of the two. Look, the game was so forgettable and no one cared about it that I can't even remember the entire name. Or you have games like Anthem that try and encroach on the increased popularity of games like Destiny and Warframe, and under the weight of all those expectations just absolutely crumble. If you can manage to get one of these massive hits, like a Black Myth Wukong, like an Elden Ring, like a Baldur's Gate 3, you will see a lot of success and mainstream appeal. But you want to know why Elden Ring took off the way it did? It was because that this game and the company that made it had so much hype going into it. Because FromSoft consistently released high-quality games that were fun, enjoyable, and didn't feel like a way to scratch at the consumer's wallet. So when they made the move, they brought George R. Martin onto the scene to help write the lore, and they made this bigger project than they ever had before with Elden Ring. Well, we have seen the success of that that game. Circling this back to Visions of Mana, we've also seen companies have grossly unrealistic expectations when it comes to the performance of games. Square Enix is notorious for this. Like back in the day, Tomb Raider selling millions of copies, and then Square Enix comes out and say that the game underperformed. Did it underperform, or did you just put it on too high of a pedestal for what the game would realistically achieve? I don't think anyone was expecting a game like Visions of Mana to ever get the same notoriety and fame of games like Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate, or even Black Myth Wukong this year. But it's unrealistic to expect that from a game like this, because when it comes down to these corporations, when it comes down to these companies, making money is not the goal. It's not the ideal. They want to make more money quicker, and they want to make more and more money than they did last year and the year before, and they want to make even more money tomorrow than what they do today. And the way to go about doing that, in their eyes, is by releasing these mega hit games. But they aren't easy to make. And if you oversaturate the market in these massive scaled games, then people will just get sick of them. This industry is notorious for chasing trends. After the success of Dota and League of Legends, we saw so many MOBA games try and come online. After the success of games like Call of Duty back in the day, we saw so many games trying to make FPS games. After the success of World of Warcraft, we saw so many quote-unquote WoW killers. And you want to know the funny thing? The games that actually managed to stand the test of time were the ones that didn't try and simply chase a trend. They tried to become it. They tried to bring something new to the table, something intrinsically intertwined with their DNA, and then you had hits like Final Fantasy XIV, that in a genre widely viewed to not be able to tell compelling, thoughtful, provocative narratives and stories, embraced the fact that it was a Final Fantasy game, not just an MMORPG. And it went on to cultivate one of the best stories in video games, in my opinion, and we have seen the success of that game in recent years. I think if Visions of Mana was going to struggle performance-wise, and I don't know if it was going to, because I don't have those numbers, I think the bigger reason for any issues there would be that you had started to develop a fan base for Mana as a franchise on the Switch, and when you make this new big budget game for that series, it's on every platform but the Switch. Like, yeah, the Switch is a limiting piece of tech in the year 2024 of all things. I get that, I understand it, but it's the reality of the industry right now. Especially when you try and cultivate a fan base for your franchise, even if it's niche, even if it's a cult franchise, a cult classic. If you then try and ignore them to build up a new fan base on other platforms, you're going to struggle. And again, I don't know if Visions of Mana was going to struggle, because it at least looked as if the devs believed in it, and I played the demo, and I became a believer in it. I don't know if I was going to play the game myself, because this is a very busy time for game releases, but I really wanted to check the game out. The optics of this is also just god-awful. This story breaks around the same time the game comes out. How much faith do you actually have in your own projects? Talking about NetEase here. I can't say that this is too surprising, because corpo gonna corpo. They're gonna focus on the bottom line, they're gonna focus on the money thing, and the money side of things more so than anything else. It's an industry filled with heartless decisions, all in service of trying to find the almighty dollar. And it's a shame that a franchise as revered and important like Mana has to have its latest release stained in such a manner. The issues that arise from decisions like this and trends like this don't happen overnight, because the construction and the development of these massive hits that these companies want to keep focusing in on takes years and years, and they require a lot of time and effort, and especially money. And if they don't have massive success when they do come out, it can be near failure overnight. But instead of hedging their bets and relying on consistency, developing goodwill, developing new IP, developing new experiences and games that try and break the mold and forge their own identity, they choose to elect to follow and chase after trends, not understanding or being cognizant of the realities of the online world, how fleeting these trends can be, how quickly eyes can shift to new things, and how hard it can be to have breakout success in this industry. And instead of consistent smaller progress, by making small bets, but understanding the way to play the game, they elect to go all in on massive, risky hands. Well, don't be surprised when the cards on the table don't go your way, because going all in may seem like the quickest, best way to make a lot of money. If you don't understand the game, you are destined to fail. Look at all the mobile gacha games that are now closing because they tried to chase trends and make a mobile gacha game because they saw the profit margins, they saw how much money those games were making, and they tried to chase after that trend. Look at all the games that try and chase after the success that Overwatch had, and they try and put out hero shooters in the modern day that don't break the mold, that feel stale and repetitive. Look at what happened to Concord. Look at all the games that tried to copy the success of World of Warcraft and failed in that endeavor. Chasing trends may work for fleeting marketing campaigns, it may work for the occasional video, but for video games that require years of investment to make and cultivate in the modern day, where goodwill can often be fleeting and be lost overnight, good luck to you. That's all I'll say. To me, Visions of Mana looked really good, I may check it out, but if this report is true, it's a shame. Thank you all for tuning in, stay safe, have a great day. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content. I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.